welcome back to another episode of Kate and Isaiah Living Large. I'm Isaiah.
And I'm Kate.
And on this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about how technology has influenced obesity. But before we get in, how's life? How are you making out?
Life is good. We're actually recording early this time because I'm going to Grown Up Band Camp in Bathurst next weekend, which will really be last weekend by the time this comes out. By the power of technology.
The power of time.
The power of time and pre-recording, but I'm pretty excited about that. Nothing like tooting my own horn for like 3 days in a row.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. But that is not a sample of my comedy.
And you think you're a comedian.
Yeah, I know, right? That is not a joke that I would tell on stage. I save that for friends and family. So I'm pretty excited about that. And this will be my third year going to Bathurst for this. And it's like a stretch to go to the north part of the province and I had family there for the bulk of my life, but my aunt moved to Moncton. I'm like pretty mad at her for that right now. Every weekend that I go pay for a hotel.
There's some pretty good breweries around Bathurst.
Yeah, there's like a 999 Nine Locks or something. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And
9 Locks.
9 Locks, yeah. And what's the other one? 13 Barrels? Is that there?
13 Barrels, and then there's
Do they only have
isn't Le Buisque there? That's the other one.
I'm not sure.
It's very French.
I was just amused by the fact that 2 of the 3 breweries there are a number and a name. 913 Brewery. Sure.
Oh goodness. Yeah, it's a band camp.
Yeah, I mean they call it Bathurst Band Fest, but I far prefer the term band camp for Grown Up Band Camp.
Insert 90s comedy reference here.
And every time somebody does it, I'm like, I've never heard that.
Har, 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 har.
And it's like somebody telling me that, oh, hey, your initials are KD, your craft dinner.
I never even thought of that before.
That's genius.
Wow. That start my stand-up.
Yeah.
Oh, so do you get to use your technology there?
So it's a great launching pad. I mean, I didn't even ask you about your week. How was your week, Isaiah?
It was good. It was work. It was busy. By the time this comes out, hopefully I've been to the gym and we'll go from there.
Yeah, we've obviously, are all super healthy and have done everything that we said we are going to do on this podcast.
Always.
Because that's what we can say about the future, because the future is before us and also in the past now. I just finished watching the series finale of One Tree Hill just before I got here, and I'm all like, woo, woo, woo.
Let's move on. So, Bandcamp, do you get to do they make you shut all your technology down so you guys are interacting with each other, or what's up?
We're not children.
I don't know.
I usually keep my phone on my stand in case somebody talks to me.
Okay.
I shouldn't, but at least it's quiet. It's not like talking to your neighbor while somebody's trying to conduct.
True. So let's talk about our topic.
Yeah, it's a great idea. This was a pick by Isaiah. Full disclosure on this podcast. One of my very few responsibilities, other than showing up, is to come up with the topics we discuss. And often I come up with one and then I'm like, oh, I don't do the other one or some variation of that. Anyway, Isaiah had a list when I got here this morning.
Did.
And this came from Isaiah.
So yeah, I wanted to talk about this one. It kind of came up through some essays that people had written about how we have become more obese as a society because of technology. So I wanted to discuss first what your general thoughts were on that, and then we can deep dive into that.
Well, I certainly could say why there's some credence on, because there's just less movement generally. And you and I both, but I'm just slightly older, I'm of that generation. They call us the Xennials. And I think one of the defining factors of the Xennials, besides being that cusp generation between Generation X and Millennials, and one of the defining features is we're of an age that we remember just going outside to play and having zero technology in the house, to being adaptable and young enough as the technology came to be that we understand very well how technology works. We don't have any struggles with it, because we grew up using it. So we're at that moldable young mind age to do so. And so I can look at all my cohorts people my age.
Sure.
And to still have this memory of like going outside to play and running and running and running and bicycling and bicycling and bicycling. And the only curfew was like when the sun went down. Gotta be home when the sun goes down. So I could be out till like 9 o'clock in the summer.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I am on that cusp, sort of. I mean, I was definitely younger. I remember getting a computer and having dial-up internet, but I don't fully remember not having a computer.
Right. We got our first computer when I was 5, and I remember it vividly. And it was not a computer that I used then. It was a Tandy 1000, and it was a DOS operated thing. And we were unique. Like that. My dad's a real tech guy, or he was a real tech guy. Watching him use a computer now, I'd question it. But he was like really interested in technology. So that was something that was important. But I was one of the only people that I went to school with at the time that had a computer at home. But we went to Fredericton and bought this Tandy 1000, and it was my 5th birthday. And I'm really competitive. So my dad was like walking up this icy hill with me and then his new computer. And he goes, "Okay, Katie, I'll race you up at the hill." But at the same time, he was holding my hand. But then he realized he forgot something. So he's like, "Okay, you stay right here." And he ran back to the store, and I was like, "This is my chance." And so I started to run, and I fell and smashed my chin up. I still have a scar. But I digress from the technology part of this conversation. My point being that me at 5 years old in 1988 or whatever it was basically unheard of or very new to have a computer in the home.
Yeah. I grew up where not everybody had a computer in their home, but a good chunk of people had computers in their home.
Right up until the end of high school, we were still allowed to hand in essays handwritten.
I mean, I was allowed to write handwritten
essays
in high school, so
okay, that's not a defining feature.
Not a defining.
It became more common to ask for things to be typed, but
yes, I think that was. Now, I think to the point of the topic about technology and obesity, I think for the most part it has, but there's also, I think that it's done kind of it's one of those double-edged swords. I think there's a lot more things that allow people to be more healthy and better. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it has driven health-wise society as a whole. But I also think, to your point, children are more online, more on their phones, more sit in front of a computer or a console like a Xbox or PlayStation and play video games than go outside.
100%. Like I remember I was not allowed to have a Nintendo when I was a kid, and Nintendo was the technology du jour in the late 80s, early 90s. And
still have mine back here.
All of my friends, like all of the kids that I was growing up with, they all like played Nintendo all the time. And anytime, and I can see how much fun they were having and how it limited them in terms of not wanting to run outside and play because they're busy. And if, we still have parental limits then and stuff. And I see that playing out now with my nephews. They both have an iPad. And my sister has to set like strict iPad time limits. Otherwise, they turn into absolute zombies. And one of them turns into an absolute zombie and just stares at it and could do that for hours. The other guy can't stop moving and has to run and play regardless of what technology he has before him.
Yeah, that's the other side of the thing is like technology is great and helpful, but someone needs to have a little bit of control on it too, right? Like, and when we're talking about kids, even though we neither of us have children,
I know.
I think that there's some sort of barrier that needs to happen. I know, like my sister has, for my nephew, has like basically he has to ask her to add more time to the screen time in order for him to actually use it.
But
things like that.
The thing is I do think technology plays a role in just the ease of everything, the ease of access to everything, the ease of fast food and quick food. Like there's fast food, which I mean like the restaurants and things, but also like quickly microwavable food and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Like
too.
even back in the day when I was growing up and I didn't have all the access to all the technology like kids do today, which, you know, creates a problem. I watch TV like a fiend, and I do think there's something to be said. Like there are some people who are going to be more active than others, regardless of what technology is around. Like I would sit and watch TV. I knew the whole TV schedule off by heart when I was in junior high and high school.
Right.
Like,
and I'm sure people read books at like books, reading books and sort of thing.
Some people are just going to be less active than others.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're right to that point of not only making it like sitting in front of a screen and doing whatever, it's also makes things easier. Like skip the dishes, ordering food right to your door a lot quicker. And, you know, microwave dinners and the mass production of food.
Right. So to your point, and this is kind of, we're going all over the map, both of us on this topic, but like you look at, you know, this is a generation or a 125-year stretch where we've had more technological increases than in history, and people have gotten fatter and fatter in that same time frame. And we've gotten to a point now where generationally, we're going to be the first generation that does not outlive our parents, according to statistics.
That's interesting. That's an interesting statistic.
And I don't think that, and does that have to do with obesity? But yes, but also has to do with heart disease and all kinds of things that aren't, as we've talked about many times, that don't necessarily translate to being fat. But those health lifestyles, what's wrong with me, that make us unhealthy. And we have more access than ever before to whatever we want to do, including technology. Like, do you remember when the Wii came out and people were like, I'm going to get fit by playing tennis Wii and all this stuff because I'm going to move. And people did move, but they also sat.
Yeah, I was never a huge fan of the Wii. It was not a good, for me, it was not a good video game. So it had decent games and like what we call shovelware, which is a nerdy term for just anyone made any type of game for it and hope that someone would buy it.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I think there is that side of it is where there is that technology side that is meant to help for fitness, right? It's there to help you learn more about the best ways to actually lose weight or the best ways to do certain exercises and things like that.
You think technology led to your own battles with weight?
No, I don't think technology really.
Because you're a super video gamer.
Yes, I am. I don't think it's. I think there's definitely parts of it that did. I think like especially like when the new expansion for World of Warcraft comes out, I am like 24/7 playing World of Warcraft when that new expansion comes out. Or the new Call of Duty, I typically take time to not do anything, but I don't think in general, I don't think it's the main factor.
Right.
But I do think it definitely has parts to do with it.
And then if you extrapolate your own experience to society, do you think that's true of most people, or do you think like how do you equate those two things?
It's hard to say. I think there are definitely people out there. There's definitely there's the stereotype, right? The fat nerd sitting at their computer playing video games all day. That's a stereotype for a reason. It definitely exists out there,
right?
But I think especially noticing more in kids growing up today, that I find kids are more active today than maybe even like 5 to 10 years ago. In the sense that and this is another topic we'll probably touch on another day, but in the sense of, I think we as society have become more educated on what the best practices are for helping lose weight and things like that. And I think as our generation becomes parents and we kind of turn around and think, oh, maybe we should try and limit things like that.
Right. But I think parents always had that inclination. I don't know about you, but my parents always told me to stop watching TV. Go outside.
Um, yes, but I think there's a gap in where technology kind of became prevalent, where that wasn't as much of a thing.
Right.
I think there is a technological change up.
Do you think that just our lifestyles generally unrelated to technology have made us more prone to obesity? Like we went from being like an agricultural society to where the predominant jobs are sitting in front of a computer, and even now people are working from home more and more, so you don't even have to leave you can walk 6 feet from your bedroom to your office sometimes.
What I do.
That's what you do. This is where we record, in your office.
In my office.
And you could go days without ever leaving your house.
I do go days without leaving my house sometimes. Sometimes it's just I have to make a conscious effort to leave my house. But yeah, I think, going from, having to live your life in the middle of a field and, digging up dirt all day long, and people still do that, but I think as a society, we don't do that as much. I think technology has changed that.
Yeah. I guess that all is technology that's changed that.
But, and then that's what they consider the way a lot of people are considering we're in the third revolution. So the first revolution being the change of between hunter gatherer to actually like farming.
Yeah.
Second revolution being the industrial revolution. Right. And now we're in we've kind of surpassed it now. I think the technological revolution.
Yeah.
So I think the technology advancements in society have allowed us to be more sedentary and not move forward, or not be moving as much. But I think at the same time, that just means we have to be a little bit more educated on what we need to do as people to make sure that we don't just, like I said, sit around and watch TV all day and that kind of thing, right?
So what do we do about it?
I think education, I think that, again, the whole other topic about education, but I think just making sure people are educated and understand, and I think giving access to the ability to, because I think a big driving factor of people not doing exercising and is the pricing at gyms. I think that
there's cheap gyms, like, I hear you, and there are gyms that are way too expensive and that are certainly prohibitive, but there are options around that. Like, I know I don't go there, but like there are two in this city. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to give them that credibility. But there are two in this city that are quite reasonably priced.
Yeah, and I mean the YMCA does subsidies for but even then, I still think that I know the two that you're thinking about, and those are very prohibited in the areas that they're in.
If you don't have a car, but right. we live in a city and a province that is not pedestrian friendly.
Yes.
And, like it's working on it. And I know that St. John Transit's doing its best and all of these things, but it's only prohibitive if you don't live near them, like for you, because I know you don't drive, and that is certainly a mitigating factor. But I would say, I'm going to guess that the bulk of the people listening to this podcast drive.
Yeah, you're probably right. But I still think that there should be. I still think that there's something that can be done about allowing more access to gyms.
I also think that it is possible to work out without ever seeing a gym.
You're right. There is.
Like
you're
there's
100%.
all kinds of ways to move, because we talk about this in our podcast all the time. Eat, move, live, or whatever we do. And you don't need a gym to go for a walk and do a push-up.
No, you're 100% right. There are definitely other options out there that people can do that are free or at minimum cost.
Yeah. Like, I think that I almost, and not to be this, I think there are certainly factors that make it challenging to work out. For me, it's time.
Yes. That's a huge one.
That's a huge one. And because it's so, and I talked about this, when we started out too, is like, because it's gotten to such a point. It's so challenging to even begin because it hurts. Like, and that is a mitigating factor. But again, I'll often hear my mom's voice in my head going, "You're just making excuses.
No,
just do something."
I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, it is all like there are, if you want to do it, there's going to be a way to do it, right?
Yeah.
I think that, again, I think the biggest factor is education. I think that goes to a huge point that people just need to be educated on certain things in order to actually understand their.
And how do you go about being educated? Like, is this something that you think should be offered in schools, or is this something that should be, parents should be teaching their children so they just naturally know? And like, how do the parents find out? Because I think one of the huge mitigating factors there as well is that people who are living in poverty going to the grocery store don't know how to purchase healthy food because they look at the costs and they see like the cheapest things you can buy are boxed and canned foods that are easy access and have very little food value. And, we have a real problem happening nowadays, which is a whole other topic.
That's what I was saying.
But I do think, because I years ago, I spent some time at I can't think of the place in the South End that helps out. Anyway, and they're talking about one of the things they do is food instruction classes where they teach people how to go buy like a stew pack, which are cheap, and stew meat and like peel the turnip and cut it all up and make a stew, which is a healthy, plentiful meal. And so many people in our generation, because of the technology aspect, and people have been working so much that people don't even know how to make a basic stew anymore, which is a cheap and easy and healthy meal.
Yeah, I think
I don't know where I went.
Yeah, I think you're right. Education is the key, and I think parents and adults should be educated. I think we should be offering, and we do. Some places do offer a little bit like that, but I think inevitably, and this might be a little controversial, I think unfortunately schools need to help with that and teach that, because like you said, some people just don't know or don't have the time to do it.
Right. And schools used to, there's been a big move away from like home economics classes and things like that taught pretty basic skills. And I don't want to go beat up on the education system, because I think they have a lot of challenges. Teachers have a hard job and have, and they're busy like managing the day of just helping kids live. Like,
yeah, no, 100%.
Like, I don't,
with a very minimal amount of people, and there's a lot.
And there's influence, and I think there's such a gap in our generation because of the technology and culturally, like, and I'm not blaming this, and I think it's totally fine, but like both parents working and the latchkey kid syndrome of the Gen X into the millennials and things like that we're now the parents, not us, but people our age are now the parents, and they actually don't have the skills because they spent every day after school microwaving their own dinner. Because that was the way things were. And so going back to those more traditional skills, not traditional lives, not the same thing.
You're putting on trad wives over here.
yeah, exactly. But like, and I don't do it. Like, this is not.
No, I mean,
I'm not gonna go home and fix my pants because I don't know how to sew. I don't know how to do anything. Like, I'm pretty useless. And my mom's not useless. Like, my mom knows how to do everything. She's a great cook. Always cooked healthy meals. Like, I grew up in a place that should not have made me obese, which is why it doesn't all relate back to that. Everything is a factor.
Right. But but I do think that education is a big thing. And I think, again, that's a whole topic we could go on and on and on about. But as far as like our topic for technology goes, I think it has definitely a big factor in it. But I think in today's society, it's become less again. I think we are moving. Everything kind of is a pendulum, right? We swing one way and then we swing the other. I think we're coming back to the other side of it, where technology isn't necessarily the major factor, and people are starting to educate themselves more on the healthy side of things. And kids today are more, I find, more active potentially than my generation was.
That could be. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was a really active kid until I was about 12. Like I was running the roads all the time, like big neighborhood games of hide and go seek tag. Me and my bicycle, we went everywhere. Like I had free run of the roads. I was talking to my mom about that the other day, and I was like, I had so much freedom. And she's like, that's one of my biggest regrets. I was like, why? It was great. No issue.
Yeah, I mean, I was relatively active. I did sports, but I only really played football. So I was a seasonal kid. So I would be active for a season, and then I wouldn't really do much outside of that. And then football season would come, I'd become very active again.
Yeah, no, I was like fully active really until I was a teenager, and then I was more seasonal. Like I played soccer in the summer, and and didn't have a lot of outdoor winter time and that sort of thing. But and like I started struggling with my weight. I shouldn't say I started struggling with my weight. I felt like I was struggling with my weight right from like grade 6, basically puberty on. But it's because I was 5'7" when I was 11 years old. Like I wasn't fat, but I felt it's bigger than everyone else in my class. So I psychologically started struggling with my weight then. And then I actually started struggling with my weight between grade 8 and grade 9. I put on a bunch of weight and started to really not feel good.
Yeah. And so I didn't really put on weight till university. My kindergarten through start of middle school, I was skinny, wouldn't eat. I went to nutritionalists because I wouldn't eat. And then I discovered food.
I always overate though. Like I made myself sick almost every holiday, like throw up sick because I would eat way too much, even from a young child. So there's something beyond, like there's stuff beyond technology that affects.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What we're doing. But technology is such an interesting topic because it affects literally everyone.
Yes.
On that note.
Yeah, I think it's time to wrap up. Where can people find you on the technology of internet?
Don't find me on the internet. That's technology. It's bad. No, we're at Kate and Isaiah Living Large on Facebook. What about you?
I am at Maritime Brews on all of the social medias. And you can also donate to our Buy Me a Coffee to get us that new camera. And then as well, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Music, if you like, share, comment on those, or you can come on over to YouTube and see the video. And if you're on YouTube, if you can like, share, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff, we appreciate all of it. But until next week, bye.
Bye.